The air was heavy with dust and the scent of dry grass. Wind scraped across the savanna, bending thorn bushes and sending whispers through the tall, yellow reeds. It was the time when the earth was shifting, when glaciers pushed far in the north and the great grasslands spread wide in Africa. Life clung to each dawn with teeth and fire, if one could find it. To live meant to fight. And few understood this truth more than the small band of humans who wandered here 2.1 million years ago. They were not yet like us, not yet fully modern, but they carried the spark of what we would one day become. Sharp eyes, quick hands, minds that could dream, plan, and fear. The hunt that turned. The tribe numbered 13 souls. Hunters and gatherers, they moved where the animals moved. Their leader, Koro, stood tall and scarred, his jaw marked by the bite of a leopard from seasons past. To him, the others looked for guidance, where to find roots, where to set snares, and when to fight. On that morning, hunger gnawed their bellies. The rains had not come for many moons, and the herds of gazelles had shifted south. Koro had led his people along the edge of a dry riverbed, searching for game. It was then that they saw the beast. Not gazelles, not even elephants. A giant. A creature of massive bulk, taller than 3 men, its horn long as a spear and thicker than a tree branch. Its hide was cracked and gray, like the stone hills behind it. The giant rhino, Paraceratherium. The largest land mammal ever to walk the earth. The tribe froze. To them, it was both a vision of plenty and of death. Enough meat to feed them for moons, but also strength enough to crush them with a single swing of its horn. Koro's eyes narrowed. His people were weak with hunger. The smaller animals were gone. But this beast could end their suffering, if they dared. They had never hunted something so massive. Yet desperation had a way of sharpening courage. Planning the impossible. That night, as the sun died in red fire across the horizon, Koro gathered the hunters. They crouched near a small fire, their faces painted with ash to keep insects at bay. Beside him sat Tana, the tribe's best tracker, whose ears caught the faintest sounds in the grass. She was quick, sharper than most of the men. And across from her, young Nero, barely grown, restless with fire in his eyes. "The beast is too great," muttered Orin the elder. His beard was streaked with white, his back bent from years of walking. "Its hide will turn our spears. Its feet will crush our bones. We must leave it." Koro shook his head. "Leave it and we starve. Face it and we live. We will not strike with strength. We will strike with thought." His plan was dangerous, but simple. Drive the giant into the ravine where the ground was steep and the footing treacherous. There, they could rain stones from above and spear its softer belly. The hunters murmured, fear battling hunger. At last, Tana spoke. "The beast bleeds like all flesh. I will help guide it." And so it was decided. The chase. At dawn, the tribe gathered sharp stones, thick spears hardened in fire, and armfuls of thorn branches to use as torches. The hunters spread in a crescent, circling the grazing giant. The rhino's small eyes blinked in the sun, its ears flicking at the sound of snapping reeds. For a moment, the air was still, like the world itself held its breath. Then Nero loosed a cry and hurled his spear. The stone tip struck the rhino's flank, not deep enough to wound, only to sting. The beast bellowed, a thunderous sound that shook the grassland. Its massive head swung, horn tearing through the air. The chase began. The hunters shouted and waved, hurling stones to keep the beast moving toward the ravine. The ground quaked with each of its strides. Birds exploded from the trees as the giant charged, its rage blind, its power unstoppable. Tana darted ahead, her slender form weaving between rocks, calling out to guide it into the narrowing path. Sweat drenched her skin, but her eyes burned with purpose. Behind her, the others struggled to keep pace. One wrong step, one stumble, and the beast would be upon them. The ravine. The ravine yawned ahead, a scar in the earth where rains had carved deep channels. Koro's heart pounded. If the beast slowed, if it turned aside, all was lost. Fire, he roared. The hunters lit their torches and thrust them high. Smoke curled, acrid and thick. They fanned out, cutting off escape, forcing the rhino toward the narrow descent. The beast bellowed again, its horns smashing a torch aside. Flames licked at dry grass, sending black smoke upward. Panic made the giant blunder forward. It stumbled into the ravine. The tribe swarmed above the cliffs, rolling heavy stones down upon its back. Some bounced harmlessly, others struck with sickening cracks. The rhino screamed, a sound of fury and pain. It reared, smashing against the stone walls, sending shards flying. One hunter, too slow to dodge, was crushed beneath a falling rock. His cry was swallowed by dust. Koro's throat burned. He could not stop now. Spears. Aim for the belly. They thrust from above, stone tips tearing into softer flesh beneath the beast's ribs. Blood sprayed, dark and hot. The rhino staggered, weakening. But in its death throes, it struck back. With a final lunge, it drove its horn upward, impaling Orin where he stood on the edge. The elder's body hung in the air a heartbeat before falling limp into the pit. The tribe wailed, grief mingling with fear. Yet the beast collapsed at last, its massive frame crashing into the dust. The ground shook as though the earth itself sighed. The aftermath. Silence fell, broken only by the buzzing of flies already gathering. The hunters stood trembling, bloodied and breathless, their eyes wide at the mountain of flesh that lay before them. They had done the impossible, but the cost was heavy. 2 lives gone, one crushed, one gored. Their loss weighed like stones on the tribe's hearts. Koro knelt beside Orin's body where it lay twisted. He placed a hand on the elder's chest. "Your spirit will walk with us," he whispered. Tana stood nearby, her face streaked with dirt and tears. She looked at the beast, then at the sky, as though trying to understand the balance of things, the gift of life bought with the price of life. For days, the tribe feasted. They carved meat, dried strips in the sun, stored fat in woven leaves. They used the giant's hide for shelter, its bones for tools. Nothing was wasted, and yet, every time they ate, they remembered the cries of the dying beast and the faces of their lost. Legacy of the hunt. The story of the giant rhino would be told by firelight for generations. Children yet unborn would hear of the day their people faced the greatest of beasts and survived. It was not merely hunger that drove them. It was something deeper, an unwillingness to bow, a spark that refused to be snuffed out. They were fragile, small against the titans of their world, but they had thought and courage and the will to endure. Koro knew this truth as he watched the sun sink behind the hills. The world was vast and cruel, filled with predators and giants. Yet his people had stood against one of the greatest and lived. This was their last stand against the giant rhino, and it marked the beginning of something greater, the rise of humankind.